Now let's continue discussing the impact that blackouts are having on our food supplies. Retailers are now starting to reject fresh produce, mainly vegetables, due to delays in delivery. The concern is that this will only get more damaging in warmer seasons, because when the veggies are being delivered, they might not be fresh any longer. Should we be concerned about a possible reduction in food supply in the stores and maybe price increase for consumers? Let's discuss this further with Paul Makube. He's an economist at FNB. Mr. Makube, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on eNCA. Thank you very much for your time. Yes, food prices are on the up, and some of the increases began even before the war in Russia and Ukraine in terms of grain, as we've been told here time and again by other economists and people who are watching what's happening, including people in the Chamber of Agriculture. Should we brace ourselves for more tough times ahead because of blackouts?
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, the current situation, if sustained, we're likely to see that kind of situation. How does it manifest itself? Currently, we are well supplied. We had a very, reasonably good season for production. But on the farmer side, compensation for the effort is likely to take a knock, given the blackouts that impact on especially on the fresh produce. If you look at the fresh produce, cold chain, management is quite critical. The perishability due to the nature of the crop, which means the shelf life is reduced. And when there's a rejection at retail level where you expect a slightly better price, you're likely to see a situation where your margins contract. And therefore it becomes a disincentive for you to actually enter into second round, production. So it might be in the second round, but currently the supplies are still there. But farmers are getting a pinch. If you look at the fertilizer prices, all the cost pressures in terms of fuel distribution, it becomes increasingly difficult for producers to actually make margins currently. So if there is a rejection at the retail level, it will, that produce will enter other streams of to reach the consumer, but that will fetch a relatively lower price, which is a disincentive for producers to produce further in the coming season.
Yeah, and if you look at I know we're talking about blackouts, but as you were answering there, I'm thinking about the impact as well of fuel costs, because many farmers will rely on diesel, for example, to produce, or plus other input costs which have gone up. So consumers should really brace themselves for more hikes in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the costs are going to be there. The consumer faces higher price mostly when the supply is relatively tight. Currently, we've got a huge crop that is with us across all the commodities. The only problem is that at the producer level, the costs are quite high, and it is actually difficult for producers or farmers to actually pass on costs because they are mostly price takers. So everything else happens up the value chain. But if you look at the recent price increases in terms of fuel, quite high. The fertilizer prices over 80% increase year on year. All those pressures will actually manifest in the next season when they decide on the next season, which might see some contraction for certain categories and result in further, second round, price increases for the consumer.
Thank you very much for your time and insights this hour on Today on eNCA. Paul Makube, he's an economist with FNB.